Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
It's 2004, and millions of Americans are tuning in to NBC to watch a new reality show called The Apprentice: The Star. A brazen New York real estate mogul with perfectly coiffed hair and a catchphrase that would echo through television history: "You're fired."
You're fired.
Simple TV show. No one could have predicted that this same man would become the President of the United States for a second time. But here we are. Trump, the controversial and polarizing figure, has managed to secure his spot for a second term in the White House. But long before he entered the political arena, Trump was already a powerful force in Hollywood, building an empire that would eventually become the launching pad for the most dramatic career pivot in entertainment history yet. The same entertainment industry that helped create the Trump brand would later become one of his fiercest battlegrounds. The glitzy world of Hollywood, which once embraced him as one of their own, would transform into an arena of bitter feuds, shocking allegations, and public confrontations that continue to this day. Let's go back to where it all began. Trump Tower, Manhattan, early 2000s. This was a symbol of everything Trump represented: wealth, power, and most importantly, showmanship. NBC executives saw something in Trump that would change television forever. They weren't just buying a businessman for their new show, they were buying a character, a personality that would dominate ratings for over a decade. The relationship between Trump and NBC was more than just business. It was a marriage of mutual benefit that would eventually end in a very public divorce. Under the bright lights of The Apprentice, Trump wasn't just a real estate developer anymore. He was becoming a cultural icon, crafting an image of success and authority that would later serve as the foundation for his political aspirations. But beneath the polished surface of primetime television, there were already signs of trouble. Gene Fowkes, a contestant from the 2010 season, reveals a different side of Trump that viewers never saw. After being fired from the show, Fowkes found himself at the Trump Tower bar, where an encounter with Trump would later become one of many controversial moments that would haunt the future president's legacy. According to Fowkes, Trump approached him and a black female crew member, suggesting they would make a really great couple because they had the same background. It could have been just an awkward moment and seemingly innocent comment. But the events that followed would reveal a pattern that would later become the center of numerous controversies. The show's success masked growing tensions behind the scenes. Bill Pruitt, a former producer, would later make explosive allegations about Trump's use of racist language during the show's first season, particularly regarding contestant Kwame Jackson. Of course, Trump and his team vehemently denied these claims, but it didn't matter that much. They added to a growing list of controversies that would eventually drive a wedge between Trump and the entertainment industry. The Apprentice lasted for 10 seasons, with Trump front and center, playing the role of a wealthy mogul on TV. It was an image carefully crafted by NBC. In fact, a New York Times article even says the producers of the show essentially created the star we know today. The Apprentice producers would also need to invent a version of Donald Trump that did not actually exist: measured, thoughtful, and endlessly wealthy, a complete rehabilitation of his public image. In short, what they did in those studios was transform this wealthy businessman into a figure that would attract ratings. They amplified his voice and launched him straight into Hollywood. And it's right here where things started to get. As his star rose in the reality TV world, Trump's figure became a spotlight that demanded attention, a spotlight that was almost always in the headlines for scandals or controversies. Newspapers Marla Maples the best I ever had. In 1990, those 6 words made headlines in the New York Post, causing a stir in Manhattan. Marla Maples' statement marked the end of Trump's first marriage. And it was the start of a series of scandals that would follow him for years to come. The real drama began on the slopes of Aspen. Ivana Trump, the sophisticated businesswoman who helped build her husband's empire, comes face to face with young, blonde Marla Maples outside Bonnie's restaurant. The confrontation that followed became the stuff of legend. "Don't touch him," Marla allegedly told Ivana about Donald. "He's mine." At that moment, the carefully constructed image of the Trump dynasty began to crack. The divorce that followed wasn't just messy, it was nuclear. Ivana demanded $150 million, the Plaza Hotel, and the Greenwich Mansion. The tabloids couldn't print stories fast enough. But behind the headlines lurked a darker truth. This wasn't just about money or property. This was about power, betrayal, and a pattern of behavior that would repeat itself with devastating consequences. Fast forward 16 years. Another beautiful wife, another explosive scandal. This time it's 2006 and Melania Trump has just given birth to their son Barron. But Donald Trump's attention is elsewhere, specifically at a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. There he meets Stormy Daniels, an adult film star who would later shake his presidency to its core. But she wasn't alone. That same weekend, Playboy model Karen McDougal catches Trump's eye. What follows is a dizzying choreography of secret meetings, hidden payments, and elaborate cover-ups. The National Enquirer pays McDougal $150,000 for her story, only to bury it, a practice known in the tabloid world as catch and kill. Meanwhile, Trump's lawyer Michael Cohen arranges a $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels, a decision that would eventually land both men in legal trouble. These affairs revealed a complex web of power, silence, and control. The same man who boasted about grabbing women by the PY on the Access Hollywood tape was orchestrating an elaborate system to keep his indiscretions hidden. Yet the truth kept seeping out, like water through cracks in a dam. Jessica Leeds came forward with her story about an airplane encounter in the 1980s. People magazine's Natasha Stoyanov described being pushed against a wall at Mar-a-Lago. Summer Zervos, a former contestant on The Apprentice, spoke about an unwanted advance in 2007. Then came the case that would expose everything. In 2019, Elle magazine's advice columnist Jean Carroll published a book excerpt that sent tremors through the media landscape. Her story began innocently enough, a chance encounter at Manhattan's prestigious Bergdorf Goodman department store in the mid-1990s. Trump, she wrote, recognized her as that advice lady they chatted. He asked for help selecting lingerie as a gift. The banter was light, seemingly harmless. What happened next would take nearly 3 decades to reach a courtroom. Carroll's account of that day remained buried in her memory until the Me Too movement erupted. As women across the country began sharing their stories, she watched, waited, and finally decided to break her silence. But when she did, Trump's response was swift and devastating. He didn't just deny her allegations, he claimed he'd never met her, despite a photograph showing them together at a social event. "She's not my type," he declared, a defense he would repeat even as evidence mounted against him. The media storm that followed was intense, but Carroll didn't back down. Instead, she did something unprecedented. She sued the sitting president of the United States for defamation. When Trump claimed she was lying, she didn't just demand an apology, she demanded her day in court. The first trial, in 2023, focused on sexual abuse and defamation claims. The testimony was brutal, detailed, and raw. For 9 days, a New York jury heard evidence that would make history. Carroll took the stand. Facing her alleged attacker through his lawyers, Trump chose not to appear, describing in painful detail what she said happened in that department store dressing room. The verdict stunned the nation. Trump was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation. The jury awarded Carroll $5 million in damages. But Trump's response only escalated the situation. Rather than retreat or apologize, he doubled down, making fresh accusations about Carroll on CNN the very next day. This led to a second defamation trial in January 2024. This time, the stakes were even higher. Trump showed up in person, creating dramatic courtroom confrontations that captivated the public. His outbursts during the proceedings led the judge to threaten his removal. As Carroll's lawyers presented evidence of Trump's continued attacks on their client, including social media posts made during the trial itself, the jury's patience wore thin. The final verdict, $83.3 million in damages, including $65 million in punitive damages meant to deter future behavior. For the first time ever, a former president had been found liable for sexual abuse, and the price tag was meant to send a message. Yet, no one really seemed to listen. Throughout his time in the spotlight, Trump has managed to remain surprisingly effective, at least in one thing: feuding with others in the Hollywood industry. His weapons, sharp words, and late-night tweets. Let's go back to the year 2006, where we found Rosie O'Donnell sat at the table of The View, about to ignite what would become one of the most enduring celebrity feuds in modern American history. The spark? Trump's decision regarding Miss USA contestant Tara Conner. When allegations of drug use and underage drinking threatened Conner's crown, Trump, then owner of the Miss USA pageant, chose to give her a second chance. O'Donnell didn't just disagree with this decision, she launched into a scathing critique that went far beyond the pageant controversy. Left the first wife, had an affair. Left the second wife, had an affair, O'Donnell declared on national television, her voice dripping with disdain. But he's the moral compass for 20-year-olds in America. She then mocked his financial history, questioning his image as a self-made businessman and comparing him to a snake oil salesman. Trump's response was swift and characteristic of what would become his signature style of attack. He didn't just defend his decision about the pageant, he went personal, calling O'Donnell a real loser and a woman out of control. This was the beginning of a pattern that would define Trump's approach to conflict for years to come. The feud continued to escalate in unexpected ways. When O'Donnell announced her engagement to Michelle Rounds in 2011, Trump didn't offer congratulations. Instead, he took to Twitter with a message that revealed the personal nature of his attacks. "I feel sorry for Rosie's new partner in love, whose parents are devastated at the thought of their daughter being with Rosie, a true loser." Fast forward to 2017. The Golden Globe stage is set, and Meryl Streep, Hollywood royalty incarnate, is accepting the Cecil B. DeMille Award, but instead of the usual thank yous, she delivers a searing indictment of Trump's behavior, never mentioning his name but leaving no doubt about her target. The next morning, Trump's fingers are flying across his phone's keyboard. "One of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood," he tweets, and suddenly the battle lines are redrawn. But it's not just about individual spats anymore. Trump's feuds with celebrities have become a complex web of overlapping conflicts, each one feeding into the next. Take Jimmy Kimmel, who turns his late-night show into a nightly referendum on Trump's presidency. The conflict simmers for years before boiling over at the 2024 Academy Awards, where Kimmel, hosting the ceremony, reads Trump's real-time criticism of his performance to millions of viewers. "Isn't it past your jail time?" Kimmel quips back, proving that in Trump's Hollywood wars, timing is everything. Then there's Robert De Niro, whose opposition to Trump costs him more than just social media followers. Outside Manhattan Criminal Court in 2023, the Oscar winner doesn't mince words. "We've forgotten the lessons of history that showed us other clowns who weren't taken seriously until they became vicious dictators." The price for such candor? His leadership award from the National Association of Broadcasters, yanked away faster than a bad review. Some feuds start in friendship, like Trump's relationship with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Once allies in the world of reality TV, their relationship crumbles when Schwarzenegger takes over The Celebrity Apprentice. Trump, by then president-elect, can't resist throwing the first punch. Ratings machine DJT becomes his self-appointed title as he publicly mocks Schwarzenegger's performance. The former governor's response is pure Hollywood gold. "I hope you'll work for all of the American people as aggressively as you worked for your ratings." The battlefield extends to the music world too. When Madonna tells a women's march she's thought about blowing up the White House, Trump pounces, calling her words a disgrace to our country.
Rebellion to our refusal as women to accept this new age of tyranny.
Snoop Dogg releases a video featuring a Trump-like clown character, and the president suggests the rapper would face jail time if he targeted Obama instead. Yet, in an unexpected plot twist, Snoop later declares nothing but love and respect for Donald Trump after a presidential pardon for his friend, proving that in Hollywood, even the fiercest feuds can have surprising third acts. And the fashion world isn't immune either. Anna Wintour and Vogue magazine become targets after backing Hillary Clinton in 2016, their first presidential endorsement ever. Trump's response? Mock Wintour's rumored ambassadorial ambitions and watch as the magazine pointedly features Democratic first ladies while excluding Melania. But get this, long before the political warfare, Trump and his family were fixtures in fashion's elite circles. Melania had graced Vogue's cover in her wedding dress in 2005, a spectacular 13-page spread celebrating her marriage to Donald. Ivanka, too, had her moment in the magazine's spotlight, featured as a rising business mogul and style icon in 2015. Back then, Anna Wintour and the Trumps moved in the same glittering Manhattan social circles, attending the same galas, sharing the same air at the Met Ball. So, what happened? Simple. Vogue did not support his presidential candidature. For Trump, this wasn't just a political rejection, it was personal. That led to this Cold War fought with glossy pages and social media salvos. Throughout his career, this pattern has stayed pretty much the same. Stephen King, Taylor Swift, even Chrissy Teigen, they've all had their moments with the now president-elect. During this year's campaign, most of Hollywood openly opposed his run, saying that if Trump won, the entertainment industry, the very world he came from, would be at risk. But while social media was flooded with our favorite stars supporting Kamala Harris, many people still saw the same controversial, energetic, no-nonsense reality TV mogul they wanted back in the White House. As Trump's victory sinks in, Jamie Lee Curtis took to Instagram, warning that his win marks a return to a more restrictive era, even fearing it could become draconian. But she urged Americans to keep fighting for women, children, and against tyranny. But as we look ahead, there's a growing concern about what's to come in the entertainment industry. If Trump's first term sparked a wave of politically charged content, pushing films and series to challenge the status quo. His second term could stifle that fire. According to DW, we're likely to witness a shift toward more escapism. We might see fewer risks taken, with creators avoiding direct criticism to avoid upsetting half the country. It could mean more distraction-driven content and less art that challenges the status quo. One thing is certain though, for Donald Trump, it's never just business, it's always personal. He's turned every conflict into a spectacle, and whether it was a celebrity feud or a political battle, it's clear he's been playing a much longer game all along. Thanks for watching Faminatics.